Hi, good evening, and welcome to this week's installment of the Minority Report. Hi, I'm Marlon David, your host for the program, and we are back. Yes, we are back. And I must say, we are back with a strong return after having missed last week's program due to circumstances beyond our control. I myself was a bit under the weather, and so we decided to go on the side of caution. However, I am back with you this week, and as promised last week when we released the flyer, we have quite an interesting program lined up this evening, quite an interesting bit of discussions. And as we always seek to do, to provide the general public with investigative information, with clarity, with proof, with real honest facts. And as I said to someone today, whenever we speak on the Minority Report, we actually provide documentation, we provide evidence that you, the members of the public, can hold on to and, for want of a better term, take it to the courthouse. We do not come here and swing blank sheets of paper and so on and try to hoodwink anybody into believing that we know what we are saying. We actually present you with the information that we can guarantee and back up the things that we say. So we're here again another week, and a lot happening in Tobago over the last couple weeks. I want to first of all say, before we get into that, that you can view the Tobago Updates website for this program. You can also log on to its YouTube channel. The page that most of you all, or the platform that most of you actually log into, is the Facebook page. But you can also view, for those of you who have subscribed to Amplia Network, you can also view this program on channel 102. So if you're sitting at home and you're having a bit of trouble with getting onto the Facebook page, you can just log on to channel 102 on Amplia and you can participate in the program. I want to encourage you to send us your comments. As many of you know, many of you who are avid listeners and followers of the program, we always relish the opportunity to read the comments and so on that are put out on the live. So I want to encourage you to also make your comments and so on. Let's try to stay away from the negativity. As I always indicate, this program and this platform is open for all persons to view. We know that all the members of the TH administration log on to the program. Some of them actually go on after and look at the program. And it's good because a lot of the times the information that they get, the actual correct information, comes from this program. So I want to encourage those of you who are logged on, feel free to comment. Feel free to keep your comments positive. Let's all respect each other's opinions. If you are willing to send us a WhatsApp, the number is 284-6597. That's 284-6597. And if you want to call us, you can call us at 356-8833. That's 356-8833. I want to kick it off this evening with, first of all, identifying that we had some success at the Commonwealth Games. I really want to take the opportunity to say congratulations to all those who would have participated in the games, not just the athletes, but the many volunteers who would have come out in support of making the games a success. I know that the Honorable Minister of Sport and the MP for Tobago West, Shamfa Kojo, really put quite a lot of effort into this. I think she even had a lot of solo effort with very little help from the other parties involved. But at the end of the day, I want to say congratulations for really bringing off a successful Commonwealth Games. I know a lot is going to come out in the post-mortem, and I trust that we will have the Honorable Minister here with us probably next week, even, to have some discussions. This evening, I want to bring right into the conversation my guest in studio, who we're going to shift the conversation a bit and go into some great news, and we're going to use that as the platform to really get into the meaningful discussion. With me this evening, I'd like to welcome political leader of the Tobago Council of the People's National Movement, Ansel Dennis. Welcome, sir. Again, you're with us.
Good evening, sir. It's always a pleasure to be on the Minority Report. Good evening to our listeners and viewers across Tobago and across Trinidad and Tobago and the world.
Yes. And I want to, I don't want to spend too much time on anything else because I know even now there's great celebration taking place. We just saw what I would call a hallmark event yesterday with the local government elections taking place. And even before I toss the ball over for your comment on how you felt about it, I saw from the onset a similar pattern where when all else failed, a number of political parties decided, let us come together with the sole intent to beat the PNM. Not to govern the island, not to govern the country, not to formulate policy, but to beat the PNM. And again, they were unsuccessful at beating the PNM and gaining any additional ground.
Well, as a PNM, not even as political leader or deputy political leader of the National Party, but simply as a member of the PNM, I am heartened and proud of this distinguished organization.
Yes.
I always boast that the PNM is the most distinguished, the greatest, the strongest political party, not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but in the Caribbean, in the CARICOM region especially. And of course, as we have always done for the 60 plus years of our existence, we fielded 141 candidates. And the only reason we fielded 141 candidates is because there were only 141 seats. And the PNM will always put a candidate in every single seat, in every election, whether in Trinidad or in Tobago. That is a proud part of our track record and history as a party. So we don't engage in coalitions. We stand on our own track record. We stand on our own principles. And we go to the population in every single election, asking them for their support. We take to them, of course, our policy objectives, our prescriptions to some of the challenges that we face at this point in time. On this occasion, it was local government reform, which simply is devolving further authority and further resources as well to local government bodies in Trinidad to give them the necessary resources and the necessary powers to be more effective at representing the interest of their burgesses or constituents. And on this occasion, the people voted, and we went in with 7 corporations, and we ended the night with 7 corporations. And for me, I think that is a major achievement. Several attempts were made to damage the party. The leader was attacked consistently with a lot of lies and defamatory statements, even newspaper articles. The leader of the UNC and the leader of even the NTA, the former commissioner of police, were more preoccupied with national security issues, which by the way, had nothing to do with local government, as all of us are aware that the responsibility for national security lies at the central government level. And of course, they were preoccupied with that. Kamla Persad Bissessa promised stand your ground legislation. She promised to arm citizens who want guns. And just imagine in our local government elections, the basis of their campaign are proposals for general elections or proposals that really will have to come through the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. And the only way you're going to get to implement or enforce any of those proposals is after general elections if you have the majority of seats in the election. But of course, the PNM, as we normally do, ran a very sensible campaign based on information, based on solutions to the challenges within the local government system. And the people of Trinidad and Tobago decided that, they will give us the majority of seats in 7 of the corporations. Of course, given the political history of Trinidad, there are some corporations that the PNM don't expect to win at this point in time. Maybe sometime in the distant future, the situation may change. But of course, we retained 7 of the corporations. UNC supporters in Tobago. I paid particular attention to some of the statements made by certain individuals in Tobago, members of the new TPP party, have suddenly begun to openly show their yellow bellies.
Alignment.
And I consider that very interesting because, of course, we in the PNM were saying it all along, that there is a high level of collaboration. There is a close-knit relationship between the UNC in Trinidad and the ruling party in the Tobago House of Assembly. Because let's face the reality. The UNC for the last umpteen years have not fielded any candidates in a Tobago House of Assembly election, neither in any general election. The last time I recall the UNC having a candidate, I think it was before 2001. It was earlier than the 2001 THA election. So that is more than 20 years ago. But the people of Tobago and the people of this country ought not to be mistaken and think for 1 second that the UNC is not interested in what happens in Tobago politically. Their proxy is, of course, the PDP turned independent, now turned TPP, and they were expecting, I don't know who advised them, I guess the UNC camp in Trinidad was brimming with confidence, and there were comments and statements and predictions and high dreams and hopes that the PNM would only retain the Port of Spain and the Arima Corporation. There was some expectation that the NTA were going to seize the majority of seats in Diego Martin. And people were hoping for an annihilation of the PNM in Trinidad. Tobago people were hoping for that. But I am happy that did not happen. I didn't even expect it to happen, right? Because notwithstanding all the negativity, after all is said and done, it is my firm belief that the majority of the population of Trinidad and Tobago are decent and right-thinking people who will do the right thing and who will distance themselves from the corruption, from the criminal organization that is the UNC and all of their affiliates. So all in all, congratulations to the People's National Movement, as I did in a Facebook post the night of the election. I congratulated all our candidates. All of them did not win. And we in the PNM, while we do not expect to win every seat, we expect and we will ensure that in every single seat, whether it's a UNC safe seat,
stronghold,
UNC stronghold, wherever, once there is a seat on the EBC's register, the PNM will provide a candidate, a proper candidate, so that anybody who wishes to cast their vote for the PNM will have that opportunity to do so. And that is the track record and the history of the People's National Movement in this country.
One thing I want to plug in there as well. I had the opportunity to also be part of some of the pre-screening sessions to prepare candidates and so on, to look and to assist, especially the younger ones coming forward. And when I saw the candidates from many different regions, as far south as Mearu, Maruga, and so on, were all young people of quality. They were from the area. Some of them were businessmen. Some of them were recently graduated students. And it said something to me that with all that is being said, there is still a surge of persons presenting themselves to the People's National Movement,
Of course.
to represent this party
Yes.
in their communities, in their districts, and qualified to serve.
Correct. And I mean, as a deputy political leader, being on the screening committee, I had the opportunity to participate in that exercise. And I was quite heartened and quite impressed, firstly, by the number of young persons that presented themselves to the screening committee. They were persons as young as, I think the youngest person, if my memory serves me correct, was 20 years of age.
Yeah.
Right? Other persons 21, 24, 25. So the party continues to churn out youthful leadership. And while many of them were not selected, and some were selected and did not win, I am sure they will be given opportunities to contribute to the party and to the development of this country in other ways.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
Now, the other point I want to make on this topic is to respond to the question as to why a political leader of the Tobago Council of the PNM and the minority leader and the minority councillor and the senator, the PNM senator from Tobago, why we found ourselves on the campaign trail in a local government election in Trinidad. I heard this chief secretary say on several occasions that he's not interested in the politics of Trinidad. That is not the case with us in the PNM. The PNM is a national party. The PNM is a Trinidad and Tobago party. And wherever there is an election, wherever in the country there is an election, there will be the support of the People's National Movement, whether from Tobago or in Trinidad, in those elections. And we in Tobago ought to be interested in every election that takes place in this country, whether it is a general election or a local government elections. And I'll tell you why. The governance of this country, of course, at the level of the central government, is critical to the people of Tobago, because we have found that, especially when the PNM is in charge, the people of Tobago tends to benefit. And there's, of course, the foolish statements, very untrue statements made by the people from the Blue Party, trying to mislead Tobagonians that the PNM did nothing for Tobago and Dr. Keith Rowley did nothing for Tobago. The evidence is so glaring of the PNM's contributions to Tobago, and I'm talking here now the central government, especially during the period 2010 to 2015 to 2020.
Yeah.
So, of course, simply look at Roxborough. We have police station, hospital, administrative complex. We have the Sherburne police station. We have, of course, in addition to that, the two brand new state-of-the-art ferries, which are, of course, beneficial to both the people of Trinidad and the people of Tobago. But, of course, Tobago is more reliant on that. There was also a commitment from the said Dr. Rowley to deliver to Tobago a marina, which is something very much needed for the advancement of our tourism sector and our economy generally in Tobago. There was the commitment to deliver a Sandals hotel. There is still the Marriott hotel on the table. I remember as well, as Chief Secretary, when I requested some additional resources to do something in Tobago called the Farmland Development Program, and I spoke about that program a lot, which I believe would have significantly boosted the agricultural prospects of the island, and we got the additional resources. So there are several ways, several projects, several developments. Some happened successfully, some were derailed by stupid talk and dotish talk from unsensible politicians in the Tobago space. And there are some things still on the cards. The airport is expected to be, the new terminal building for the airport is expected to be delivered by 2025. And therefore, when there is a PNM government, Tobago benefits. And of course, we ought to pay attention to what is happening at the national level. For example, during the period 2010 to 2015, it was scandalous. It tainted the image of the country. When you can have politicians or leaders in this country every Monday morning in a scandal who attracted the attention of the police for serious offenses such as witness tampering, such as misbehavior in public office, such as conspiracy to defraud the state. Tobago needs to pay attention to those things at the national level. Now, some may argue that, okay, local government is Trinidad, that doesn't affect Tobago. Of course it does affect Tobago. Anything that happens in Trinidad, economic-wise, the economy of Trinidad, depending on how strong that is, depending on the feel or the mood of the people in Trinidad, will impact on Tobago. The ability of Trinidadians to come to Tobago to support our tourism sector. As a matter of fact, during the July-August period, during the Easter period, and even during the Christmas season, we see significantly more Trinidadians on the island than tourists from outside of the country. We see them on the reef boats, we see them in the hotels, we see them in the villas, we see them everywhere, even for our Tobago Carnival that is scheduled to be in October, right? We need the support of people from Trinidad. So of course, if Trinidad is governed properly, and if Trinidad prospers, then Tobago prospers.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, it's Trinidad and Tobago. No matter who may wish to preach and stir up separatist ideas and agendas, it is Trinidad and Tobago. And therefore, the people of Tobago must be interested in the political developments. And I can tell you that as political leader of the Tobago Council and as an aspiring chief secretary. Of course, I was chief secretary before, but I'm still aspiring to be chief secretary again. I am interested in what happens in Trinidad, especially as it relates to the politics of Trinidad, right? So we should not have this idea that Tobagonians should not be interested or involved in elections and in the political developments and in the developments generally in Trinidad. And the final thing I will say is that we must also acknowledge that there are a number of Tobagonians living in Trinidad.
I think the last time I checked, there was more Tobagonians living in Trinidad
than in Tobago.
At this point in time, I'd like to take the opportunity to just recognize, I always say on the program that the program is for everyone. And we know that everybody listens in, and I'm seeing Ian Pollard on the program, on the live, joining in the comments as well. YT.
Oh, right.
AKA YT. So I want to, thanks for logging in, YT. Thanks for your comment. As nonsensical as it may be.
What was the comment?
But as per usual, I know you all log on and watch the program, and I always welcome you all
What was
on
the
the
comment?
program. I want to also say,
What was the comment?
this little boy don't realize he isn't relevant loser. Is not even grammatically correct.
Okay.
So Whitey, thanks for the comment, but thanks. I hope you stay all the way to the end of the program. I think that, as I said, this is the only platform you guys actually get the truth from. So I want to encourage you to stay on. And let me just say this to Danny Job, a number of fake profiles, because you all don't have the testicular fortitude.
There's no need to respond to them, you know, but I was.
Now, I want to indicate to this person that if he is disrespectful on the live and if he becomes obscene, as he has stated here, I'm going to ask them to block you from the program. Because you are free to listen to the program, you are free to comment, but you are also free to be respectful. So let's try to keep the obscenities off the program and make your comments.
But there's a reason for that. People normally follow their leaders. Yeah? And if their leaders are disrespectful,
exactly,
and classless and crass, then what do you expect?
That's all they'll do
from their supporters. Interestingly, the same Ian Pollard, I saw him make an interesting comment. I wouldn't even repeat the comment, relating to a reporter. And I was like, wow, imagine our secretaries of the THA are comfortable, right, making those kinds of public statements, insulting people, right, publicly. Now I could understand you would throw a couple words at me. I'm a politician at the end of the day. In this country, politicians does cuss one another.
Yeah.
But
tell them how to stink mouth.
When I see secretaries who are expected to represent all without fear or favor, malice or ill will, right, making those kinds of statements against the average citizen, right? I understand as well that threats were made to the minority leader by this particular secretary. All I would say is carry on, Brother Whitey, carry on.
Yes. So, folks, we are building into our discussions this evening. We're going to take a short break, but when we get back, we're going to start to touch a bit on what we experienced on Sunday as a third attempt at the launch of our political party in Tobago. So, folks, we're going to be right back. We're going to pay some bills and stay logged on, stay locked on, and just invite as many more people as possible to come into the program so that we can all benefit. We'll be right back.
This is how it's gonna go. They better look up and look, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up and look. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show. Good morning, morning, good morning, morning. Put a smile on your...
From the experts that created the Zinger sandwich comes the KFC Crispy Barbecue Zinger. Cheddar cheese, crispy onions, the most delicious Kentucky Fried Chicken, and barbecue sauce. Get ready for a whole new level of flavor.
Jimmy's Holiday Resorts has 1, 2, and 3 bedroom, fully self-contained apartments located at the heart of Crown Point. Minutes walk to the popular beaches, restaurants, bars, and the airport. Enjoy our amazing amenities such as fully equipped apartments, complete with Wi-Fi, AC, TV, and a pool, and a mini-mart on the compound. Call 639-8292 or 8929. Jimmy's Holiday Resorts is your family's home away from home.
October will never be better with Tobago Carnival fever. Okay, passage and come on over.
Yes, folks, we are back, and in studio with me is political leader of the Tobago Council, the PNM, and deputy political leader of the National Party of the People's National Movement, Mr. Ansel Dennis. And we've been looking at a number of issues taking place in Tobago. We're going to shift our focus a bit. We saw on Sunday, as I indicated on our way out, a third attempt at a launch of a political party. I want to pull up a photo, and I'll use this as the basis for us to begin our discussion. And I want all of Tobago to just look at this photo. This is a picture. Forget the Liz Williams tag. But this is a photo of Secretary Trevor James coming to the platform with what appears to be 4 armed but masked individuals forming a sort of barricade around him. And I know many of you who look at the program would have gone to school at various levels and so on. And when I saw this, I remembered the book Animal Farm, where it was depicted in terms of animals and so on who all came together and decided to overthrow the humans. And certain animals began to feel that they were more entitled to be in charge. And so, like sheep, all the other animals decided, well, yes, let's follow you all, because they were the ones that were making the most noise and so on. To cut a long story short, that story ended where those few animals surrounded themselves with bodyguards in the form of Doberman pinchers, ferocious animals, and became untouchables in that animal society. And they began to rule with an iron fist. And when I saw this image, the image of Napoleon in the book Animal Farm came back to me. And I want us to be very careful in Tobago that when we see things like this, these are red flags. And I'm not using red, no pun intended, but these are red flags that we must pay attention to when we see those who are in leadership adopting this type of posture to come to address the people of Tobago, and you are arming yourself. For people in Tobago, there's nobody in Trinidad that you are arming yourself against. These are bodyguards for you in Tobago. And I understand that several other secretaries have now armed themselves with security, personal security. I don't know what is the threat against them in Tobago, but I think it has become more of a status statement, as it were. But that picture was very, very concerning to me. And I think it is something that we all need to pay attention to. And let us not forget these red flags. Political leader, what was your take on what we saw on Sunday? I know you have a lot to say about it.
Actually, I don't have a lot to say about the launch or the dropping of the anchor, right? I mean, interestingly, for the past 20 months, Tobago has experienced its worst leadership, worst administration by far. And they have brought us to a position of chaos, of confusion, of fear. There's an air of fear on this island.
Yeah.
And I will talk more about that tomorrow at my press conference. Join me at 2 p.m. Live on my Facebook page. I will talk more about the air of fear that has gripped this island. So they have brought us to that point. In 20 months, we moved from a respected august body of the Tobago House of Assembly to what many will consider to be a clown show or a circus.
Yes.
And we have now decided that at this point it's appropriate to drop anchor. So we are going to possibly stay right here.
We ain't moving our place.
For the next couple of years of this administration. But I basically want to take about 5 minutes to talk about the sea of rubbish. Because they spoke about, when they advertised this launch, they told Tobagonians that a sea of change was coming. But what I witnessed on Sunday, actually I didn't look at it in its entirety. On Sunday, I took in more of it afterwards. And what I witnessed was really a sea of rubbish.
Yeah.
Sometimes in Tobago when we have very heavy rainfall and the rivers burst the banks and all the logs and tree cuttings and debris and stones and all that stuff wash into the ocean. And you can't even bathe in the sea immediately after that, even if the rain subsides, because the water is brown and murky. And you may even encounter tree limbs and bamboo pieces and that kind of stuff in the water. What I saw on Sunday was really a sea of rubbish. There was no change. There was nothing for the people of Tobago to look forward to. It was pretty much them doubling down on their arrogance, on their positions of divisiveness, and it was them really reiterating the fact that they are now a clear and present threat to the democracy of this island and this country by extension. So of course it was a pretty much a repeat of what we have been hearing from them over the last 20 months. A group of people who refuse to take responsibility for their actions, just blame Trinidad, blame Dr. Rowley, blame the central government, blame the TTPS. So you got into a room about a year ago, you sat with your colleagues, you discussed the use of THA's money, public money, taxpayers' money,
that they meet there
to pay persons to do propaganda, right? And he said in his own voice that there are things that I want to be out there, some leaks that I don't want to put out myself. And therefore we need these people and we're going to reward them with THA jobs. So you went into a room, nobody forced you, nobody put a gun to your head. You went into a room and you sat amongst your colleagues. Not one PNM person was there. You sat amongst your colleagues and you discussed, and it was on record, and the record is now in the public and engaging the attention of the police, right? Because based on the recording, based on what was said and perhaps done, an offense might have been committed. And the only way to confirm if an offense was committed is for the police to investigate, right? And as that investigation continues, of course, in order to perform certain aspects of the investigations, the police required to execute search warrants.
Yeah.
They required the execution of seizures of devices, etc., both personal and in the public buildings. And in order to procure that, the police had to go through the necessary processes and procedures, justice of the peace, magistrate, whoever, in order to get these warrants. But that can only happen if there is a reasonable suspicion that an offense may have been committed. And instead of allowing the investigation to run its course, instead of allowing the TTPS to perform their duties, as would have been his expectation had he reported the zipline matter which he promised to take to the police and it never reached, right? Because at that time he had confidence in the police. Perhaps he genuinely believed that there was some wrongdoing, although I highly doubt it. I personally believe that his intentions were purely malicious. Hence, the report never got to the police because he knew for a fact that no offense was committed. But the police are doing their investigations, and instead of awaiting the findings of the investigations, and perhaps the chief secretary is already aware of his fate in this matter, I don't know. I have my own opinions, but I am no lawyer, and I'm certainly not the DPP, but I have my own suspicions. But instead of awaiting the outcome, he proceeds in the most dangerous way to attack the commissioner of police, to attack the TTPS. Of course, he started about a month ago when he got this so-called whistleblower to go into the house. Well, he didn't even carry him to the house. He carried a video, which he recorded secretly. And last Sunday, he doubled down. He went further, threatening Tobagonian police officers, reminding them that they live in Tobago and they have to live amongst. Now, I wonder if he's aware that he lives in Tobago and have to live amongst us.
But Pierre, I'm glad you brought that because, again, we like persons to hear for themselves. So I want to, as you said that, I want to have the director cue that clip.
Yes.
Because it's very critical for us that people understand what was said.
Yes.
So let's have that clip, Mr. Director.
You keep out of our business. And it will also appear to Tobago that when they cannot get their way, then what they will do, they call the commissioner of police, whose balisé blue mazo showing, she balisé petticoat exposed, and she sent up another mad lady, and they will come and try to terrorize the elected members of the Tobago House of Assembly. But more than that, they find themselves in the houses of public servants whom we ain't even hire. People who are working for the theatre for over 10 years. And the relationship between Tobago and Trinidad has never been this low. We had Robinson versus Williams. The most Williams is suffer. Mrs. Williams, and them and then pay them no money. They ain't get no salary. My father was in the bunch. We had Hochoy versus Pandey. We had to get a DRC to solve that one. We had Kamla versus Orville and all kind of back and forth and trading of talks. And you Tobagonians came out and voted overwhelmingly against that. Ask Baines, he was part of them. Who lose? Right? And but we have never had a situation where the government of Trinidad and Tobago will use the machinations of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to come and terrorize people because they simply do not agree with them, because we voted them out of office. But I played that song on purpose at the start because a seed might look dead when you bury it, but a few days later it germinates. And with the right nourishment from Tobagonians, we will have the right size tree to throw a shade for generations to come. So we are not afraid of them and that. And I assure you that in the coming week, we will go at them with everything we have, and we will drag every one of them to court and let Erla Christopher come to court and account for how she's managing the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And let me hasten to warning the over-exuberant police officers on island. Remember, you are Tobagonian first. Remember, you live among us first. And that is not a threat. That is a reminder so that you understand who you are. Because I recognize that there are really no PNM Tobagonians, you know, only confused the Tobagonians. Very confused. But we are here today.
Yes, folks. So I wanted, for those who would have missed it and think that we are making this up, for you to understand, in the words of David Rudder, the rant of a madman.
Yeah. Now, clearly this chief secretary believes, not thinks, he believes that he's above the law.
Yes.
So he's warning police officers that they live in Tobago. So what does that mean?
And threatening the police officers.
So because they live in Tobago, they mustn't fight crime in Tobago. Police officers in Tobago have been fighting crime. Have been fighting crime in Tobago from ever since. If ever wrongdoing is being done in Tobago, if ever criminal activity is being conducted in Tobago, the Tobago police, first and foremost, have a responsibility to treat with that, right? So there is this perception clearly in his mind that he's above the law and he can engage in criminal conduct, and the police must not pay attention to that. So there he is, rather than taking responsibility for his actions.
Yes,
because
that he admit to.
Because he was in office for about 18 months before this happened. And I am sure there were disagreements with himself and Dr. Rowley and also other ministers. And there were disagreements between secretaries and ministers, right? So they were in office for 18 months, right? But suddenly, because this video came out with you engaging in an act that could possibly be an offense, which attracted the attention of the police came knocking on your doors. And I want to make that abundantly clear to the people of Tobago.
Let's not forget that.
The only reason, right, the Anti-Corruption Bureau, right, if I'm not mistaken, this is only the second time, as far as I'm aware, that they have been involved in matters surrounding the THE. Remember when that $8 or $10 million went missing from tourism? It was reported. The same Anti-Corruption Bureau came in, they did their investigations, and as far as I'm aware, the investigations are continuing. That's the last report I got. Of course, public servants were held to account. An administrator was suspended. I think 2 other persons were fired, and the investigation. But the point is, the police came to the THA because there was suspicion and evidence that an offense was committed, money went missing, right? And while they may give the impression that his politicians stole the money, no politician was questioned by the police in that matter, right? But on this occasion, a few years later, the Anti-Corruption Bureau, they are here again, and they are now interested once again in the THA. But guess what? On this occasion, it has gone beyond public servants. They are now interested in the actions of politicians on this island. So, no, Farley, don't come to the people of Tobago with lies. And while I know you have a few supporters that will lap that up and dance and wave flags and sing when you spew that kind of nonsense, right? The only reason the police came to search the Chief Secretary's residence, offices of the THA, is simply because, in my opinion, they were looking for possible documents that could prove whether or not you engaged in the plot as you admitted to. Now, you admitted that there was a plot, but of course, he said they did not implement it. And knowing you, the police cannot listen to you, Farley, and take your word for it.
At all.
You are a known liar. You lie blatantly to the public, and therefore we simply cannot just sit back and accept and believe that, okay, it was just a conspiracy. And perhaps even if it is a conspiracy, that may very well be an offense.
It is an offense.
So the police service, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, has a responsibility. They are duty bound. As a matter of fact, ignoring that is an offense.
Yeah.
So they are duty bound to investigate criminal conduct. But there he is on the platform calling the police commissioner a PNM, and that a PNM petticoat
Bloomers
showing and
so disrespectful.
and insinuating that
No
the lady,
class.
just now, insinuating that the lady behaved improperly.
Yeah.
And that she should come to court and give account for how she's managing the public service. You go to court and give account for your actions. Up to now, he has not apologized to the people of Tobago. You came to us as the most holiest politician on this island, while you accuse others of all kinds of things using lies and misinformation. And then you were caught with your pants down. The same
Red-handed.
Holy Farley was heard on record planning corruption and possibly implemented it. So instead of allowing the police to carry out the investigation, he's there saying that the Prime Minister sent them, the central government sent them, and the police commissioner has misbehaved. A woman, by the way, who worked her way up the ranks, right? I think she started as a, well, in the police service, you could only start as a constable. It's not like the military where you could come in as a commissioned officer and start at, I think it's colonel or
Second
something like that.
lieutenant, I think.
Yeah? Or somewhere there.
Yeah.
So she started as a constable, worked her way up the ranks, constable, corporal, sergeant, inspector, all the way up to the rank of police commissioner. Perhaps, as far as I'm aware, she was never fingered in any wrongdoing.
Never.
She
Still
was
in Curry.
she was never on suspension for anything, right? Never misbehaved in the public service. More than 20 years in the police service. A sterling record. Having now assumed the rank of commissioner, we have Farley Augustine, a fly-by-night politician, right, who has now been in the office of Chief Secretary for less than 2 years, caught misbehaving himself as a public servant on this island. He's now prepared to denigrate and destroy the character of the police commissioner in order to rescue himself. Because I'm putting it to the people of Tobago that Farley Augustine knows, he knows that the central government did not send the police. He knows
that
the police is only here as a result of his actions. Because had he not engaged in that activity, there was no way the police could have come knocking on his door. All right, so you can't be a criminal and then complain when the police comes. So I am putting it to the people of Tobago that is the situation. The Chief Secretary refuses to take responsibility for his actions. He thinks he's above the law and that he can do what he wants, say what he wants, engage in possible criminal conduct, and that the police should not investigate. But I want to remind him that in every jurisdiction that has a serious democracy, no politician is above the law. Donald Trump, the former president, several charges,
Yep.
right? The Prime Minister of Britain had to resign,
Had to resign.
as a result of misconduct,
Yep.
right? And he himself, I believe, found himself under criminal investigation as a result of breaking some COVID regulations and stuff like that and other issues. So no politician, no chief secretary, no prime minister, no minister, nobody in this country is above the law. And I want to remind the population as well that politicians on both sides
Yeah.
found themselves under police investigation,
Yep.
right? Some are still before the courts on charges, some on bail, and I will say that the PNM, though, we have no member of parliament on bail. As a matter of fact, in the PNM, we have a different standard.
Yeah.
When you find
definitely.
yourself in that kind of trouble, you clear your name, and when you
Come
clear
back.
your name, you can come back.
Yeah.
Like the late, great Franklin Kahn.
Yeah.
He was accused, he was charged,
Mm-hmm.
he had to distance himself from the leadership of the PNM.
Yeah.
He went, his name was cleared, and he was allowed
To return.
come back. But in the UNC, you could be accused or charged for conspiracy to misappropriate and to defraud the state. You will still be welcomed in the UNC as a front bench,
Yeah.
as a front bench MP. You could be charged for breaches to the Prevention of Corruption Act, and you will still be a frontline attorney to frustrate the advancements and the proposals of the government. You could be wanted by the great United States of America, and you will be welcomed on a UNC platform.
Exactly.
Not in the PNM. You cannot be a criminal or an alleged criminal and participate in the leadership of the People's National Movement. So on Sunday, that is what it was about. It is about a desperate chief secretary who has found himself in all sorts of trouble, right? And I must say that I don't take pleasure in the downfall of anybody. At the end of the day, that's a young man with a bright future, or that is supposed to have a bright future ahead of him. I must say that I was quite disappointed by some of his actions. Those actions convinced me that the young man is wicked. I have to say it as it is. Those actions convinced me that the young man is selfish. The actions convinced me that the young man is arrogant and that the young man is dangerous to this island. And I have seen no change since then. His actions have only become more brazen and more dangerous.
Yeah.
So I am calling on the persons so accused to take the necessary actions. The fact that this chief secretary is prepared to go on a platform and malign and damage the reputation of individuals and institutions in the way in which he did, he should not get away with it.
This is a serious
And while
thing.
again I don't take pleasure in the downfall of anybody, actions have consequences. This is a land of law and order, and there must be justice. People must pay for their actions.
And let us not remember as well, Yel, that as embroiled as the chief secretary seems to be in a number of legal matters, that he keeps trying to blame on somebody else. We also have a situation where one of their own persons, whose name was called on the audio, took him to court.
And that is why
And he lost the matter. He had to settle.
And that is why I said that it is my firm belief that the chief secretary is wicked.
Yeah.
Because if you are, and I hold no brief for this young lady, she's not my friend, and of course she is my political opponent, and I am strongly convinced that she was one of the key persons involved in the propaganda machinery
Yes.
of the PDP that was used to destroy the former political leader of the PNM, that was used to destroy the credibility of even other politicians like myself. So I hold no brief for the young woman, but the fact that she being a member of their team, having to go to court to get monies owed to her, then that should send a clear signal on the character
Of the individual.
and the mindset of this individual. So to hell with responsibility, to hell with what I did. As a matter of fact, he expects the people of Tobago to simply forget that and move on, because in his mind, perhaps nothing is wrong with it.
Yeah.
Politicians should be able to utilize.
He said that they were protected.
State resources and bring on people and pay them to do propaganda. And
And the
Chief
law should
Secretary,
pay no attention to it.
the Chief Secretary, even at one point, I heard him say that the Department of Information
Yes.
in the THA is a propaganda unit. I was flabbergasted when I heard that statement. Totally shocked that the Chief Secretary will label the decent,
Yes.
talented
Qualified.
information department, people who went through formal and stringent recruitment processes to land those jobs, people who are qualified and who engage in disseminating information and producing programs, right? Programs that highlight
Inform the public.
correct, and programs that even highlight Tobago as a tourism destination of choice. Let's Talk Tobago, a brilliant program that has been ongoing for many years, a program that I really love. And the Chief Secretary is going to utilize that as an example of a propaganda unit to justify his criminal conduct. I was flabbergasted by that. I will repeat, I was totally shocked, right? So maybe in his mind, he thinks that it is okay to engage in that behavior. However, the laws say otherwise. The Integrity in Public Life Act says otherwise, right?
Exactly.
And therefore, the police, the TTPS, they have a responsibility to investigate, and at the conclusion of the investigation, a file will go to the DPP, and the DPP will determine if charges are to be laid in this matter or if none are to be laid. And I hope that if it comes to the point of charges being laid, that the DPP will not be attacked and accused of being PNM.
Yeah. Folks, we're going to take a short break. We're going to pay some bills, and we'll be back to take the conversation to yet another level. So stay logged on, stay locked on. We'll be back soon.
Tobago, after freeness is more speed and better TV. Get a free Samsung smartphone and free installation, plus 200 megabits per second, Paramount Plus, and more for only $299 with a select 200 plan from Flow. Visit online at discoverflow.co today.
Excel Spa by Haley, where our highly trained staff are ready to deliver the top-class services in facial massages, waxing, nail enhancement and body treatment. We are ideally located at Coco Avenue, Switzerland, Tobago. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TripAdvisor, or you can call us on 730-0149. Sales Power by Haley. Relax, renew, and rejuvenate.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tobago. Your meals, medication, groceries, and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tobago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tobago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tobago's at your service.
And folks, we are back on our home stretch as we shift into another gear this evening. We're going to go right into a clip as we turn the conversation to this particular scenario. Mr. Director.
The wars are initiated by a foreigner through a foreign military power. They always felt they can turn up on our shores and claim Tobago as their own. Today, we see the white shirts coming. They come to Tobago and they say, despite the law, Tobago is ours. We could come here, we don't have to talk to James or Farley or nobody. We just come here and do what we want. We could stop by the airport, park up, stop all the traffic, prevent you from catching your flight, let you pay them another $50, charge your money and take all the money in Trinidad and give us pittance. Well, it seems as though they feel it is their right to contribute, to contravene our rights in Tobago. All because you, the people, made a choice on December 6th. You made a choice to begin to rid Tobago of that evil. And they have decided to punish us. Will you stand firm? Will you stand firm in the face of this evil? So I want all you, because I can't tell him, because me ain't talking to him again. I want all you to tell Sinanan and this fella Clark that the next time they come to Tobago and they ain't talk to me or FC Augustine, they better bring a mobile unit, because our offices are out of bunks for them. Out of bunks. And we will advise our security to stop them outside the gate at the Division of Agriculture. They're too out of place.
So as Animal Farm continues to unfold, incidentally, we had a situation where the licensing officers, when they returned this second time to again carry out their duties according to the law in terms of managing traffic offenses and educating the public, the facility that houses the licensing division was mysteriously shut down for what I think they said was COVID sanitization.
Well,
PL.
Well, the Secretary of Infrastructure finally told us exactly why the building was closed, right? But I mean, it is just pure craziness, pure madness, arrogance. People who are hell-bent on pushing this narrative, hoping that it takes root in the minds of the people of Tobago, that Trinidad is against Tobago, and Trinidad wants to destroy Tobago. So when it's not the Prime Minister or the TTPS, it's the licensing officers. But I just want to educate or remind the people of Tobago on what the law says, the Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Act. Now, of course, this will fall under the ambit of the Ministry of Works and Transport.
Yeah.
But really and truly, it is another arm of law enforcement. Yeah? Now, first of all, let's understand the role of the Transport Commissioner, whom I believe is Mr. Clark,
Yeah.
that Trevor James was referring to. Section 4 of that act, and this is the law I'm reading from, every country, every democracy that does not desire to be a banana republic, that does not desire to have chaos and lawlessness and disorder, will have laws in place.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, there will be citizens with the responsibility for the enforcement of those laws. Right? So, in order for any state to function effectively, there are three arms that must work and work properly. The judiciary, and of course they interpret the law. The legislature. The legislature, of course, they are lawmakers. They make laws. And this particular law came out from the parliament, because that is the law-making body in this country, the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, where Tobago has proportional representation in the form of 2 seats. And then, of course, you have, apart from the lower house, you have the Senate. So that's the legislature. And as part of the legislature, you have the President of the Republic, who must assent laws or bills before they become law. And then you have the executive arm, which is the government, the various ministries in Tobago. You have it. So, according to the law, the Transport Commissioner is the licensing authority and shall be charged with responsibility for the registration and inspection of all motor vehicles and the issue of driving permits and such other matters as are assigned to him by this act or any regulations made thereunder. So is Trevor James, by refusing to allow the licensing officers to occupy the building designated to them before him, he came and he met that in place.
He met that in place.
Right? And that was based on the THAs. Now, the THA Act, as I've said before, is not a perfect piece of legislation.
Yeah.
So all it has under the 5th schedule is licensing. Now, what does that mean? Licensing of what? Licensing of motor vehicles, licensing of boats, planes, licensing of what exactly? So it is not clear, it is not specific. But that has always been interpreted to mean that we have some limited administrative responsibility for the operations of the licensing department in Tobago. Right? But when you look at the law, it says the Transport Commissioner is responsible for inspections on motor vehicles, issuing driving permits, etc., etc. And of course, the law goes on to say there will also be transport officers who shall be under the direction of the Transport Commissioner, who may assign such officers as may be necessary to such locations and to perform such duties as he directs for the purpose of the Act. So the Transport Commissioner has a lawful and constitutional responsibility, and he's supported by transport officers or white shirts, as we like
Yeah.
to call them, and he is responsible for directing those officers, whether they go to Tobago or Cedros or wherever the case may be, right? So they're not only responsible for those road exercises, those traffic exercises to detect and deter errant drivers and stuff like that, but they are also responsible for issuing license.
Yeah.
So by blocking them or preventing them from occupying the office, let's say they decide to, as a result of that, abandon their responsibilities. Now, there are several options available to them, and I will point to the most serious option available shortly. But there are several options available to them. They could choose to, as Trevor James indicated, bring a mobile unit and operate out of that.
Yeah.
Or they could choose to, just sign off on things. The public servants in the building could do the paperwork, and I guess the officer could stay by the gate and sign off the documents and hand them back.
Yeah.
There are several options. But if the officers decide that, all right, we're not bothering to come to Tobago because the THA don't want us there, who will issue driving permits to Tobago?
Exactly.
Who will inspect vehicles in Tobago? Who will have responsibility for ensuring that vehicles in Tobago are roadworthy? Right? Now, I saw some reports of people who felt that the licensing officers were overdoing it. And if that is the case, then I do not condone that. I do not support that. And we know at times there are errant officials. Just as how you have errant THA assemblymen and an errant chief secretary, you can have errant police officers and errant licensing officers who talk to people anyhow and rough up people and that kind of thing. I don't condone that. Right? One police officer, once in my life, attempted to rough me up, and I had to put him in his place. Right? But I've had 2 experiences with the licensing officers, and on both occasions I was asked for my driver's permit and insurance, and on both occasions I was able to provide the requested documents. On the last occasion, the driver walked around my vehicle. I guess he was inspecting it. And after that, I was told, have a good day, and I went ahead. I went about my business. And I believe that that is the experience of the majority of persons, right? But of course, if you experience disrespect and you experience a rogue officer who may be trying to make your day a miserable one, don't accept it. And there are systems in place to deal with that. Right? People can't just do what they want. Police officers can't just go around issuing tickets because them and a man have a beef. Licensing officers cannot do the same either. And if they choose to do it, there are already systems in place to deal with that. Right? In the case of the police service, there's the Police Complaints Authority, which Farley went to.
Yeah.
Because he felt that the police should not issue warrants to him and his secretaries, notwithstanding the fact that they are highly suspected of engaging in criminal conduct. So he went to the Police Complaints Authority. In the case of the licensing officers, there are ways for complaints to be made as well. In some cases, people can actually go to court and contest the tickets if they felt that the ticket was unfair. So there are ways in which to deal with that. There is absolutely no need for people to be confrontational, especially at the leadership level, concerning these issues. And then there's, of course, the same talk that the government sent and when they say the government, they mean the cabinet sent the licensing officers to Tobago. Absolute rubbish. And I will tell Tobagonians another story. In 2016, I think it was, 2016 or 2017, right? My wife was using my vehicle, and she parked in front of courts, I think, up at Burnett Hill. And I saw a picture of my vehicle being wrecked. Somebody who saw it took a picture of my vehicle. I was an assemblyman. Eh? Somebody took a picture of the vehicle and sent it to me, right? So I called her to find out what going on, and then she started explaining to me that where she parked and the wrecker took the vehicle and that kind of stuff. And you have people talking in Tobago as though it's the first time a wrecker came to Scarborough to enforce traffic regulations and to enforce the law. The wrecker has been around since 2015 or even before. I had my own experience in 2015 or 2016, right? So the wrecker is not a new thing. The licensing officers coming to Tobago, I remember even as a young driver growing up, there were instances of massive exercises, police exercises, exercises involving licensing officers on the island, right? And why is this necessary? It is necessary to ensure that we have law and order. Look what happened in Tobago recently. We had a spate of murders. I think we had, 4 murders in 4 weeks or something like that. Back to back murders. There was a murder even up to last week, right? And if the police, and sometimes at the request of the political directorate, who would say, well, find a solution to crime, we need to treat with crime. So if the police, based on their wisdom and based on their intelligence, decides that there is a need for increased action in a particular place, then that is their responsibility. And politicians ought not to interfere improperly with those responsibilities, right? So we have, again, as part of the Sea of Garbage last Sunday, the Secretary of Infrastructure threatening to bar licensing officers from entering their place of work in Tobago. And I want to read another section of this same piece of legislation for Mr. Trevor James in particular. Any person who assaults, obstructs, or resists any transport officer in the execution of his duty, or aids or incites any other person to assault, obstruct, the key word here is obstruct, or resist any transport officer in the execution of his duty, is liable on summary conviction to a fine of $300 or to imprisonment for 6 months. In other words, it is an offense to do that. The last part I want to read is where it says, in the exercise of powers and duties conferred on him by this act and any regulations made thereunder, every transport officer shall have the powers, authorities, and privileges, and shall be entitled to all the immunities given by any law from time to time in force to any member of the police service. So in other words, in the eyes of the law, transport officers, licensing officers, men in white shirts are equivalent to police officers.
Exactly.
Right? So again, this is yet another dangerous attempt by maybe the de facto Deputy Chief Secretary, Trevor James, to misinform, mislead, incite the people of Tobago, and to engender this notion and this dangerous, divisive rhetoric that Trinidad is against Tobago and that we are at war, right? That is dangerous. It is self-serving. And the only benefit that can come of this is the political benefit that they are hoping to derive. So I want to say to the people of Tobago, do not be fooled. Again, if you encounter any disrespect, any abuse from anybody, right, there are ways to deal with that. In the case of police officers, there is the Police Complaints Authority. In the case of the licensing officers or transport officers, you can make reports to the Transport Commissioner, right? And tickets, if you think the tickets were issued unfairly or unnecessarily, and you don't intend to pay it, the system allows for it to be challenged in the court. And if you and a transport officer or a police officer cross-tread, and I've seen situations where police officers ask people to park up there and just don't move for no reason, just park up, just to frustrate them. Go live on Facebook, complain, right? The system allows us to deal with any errant official, any rogue official, right? Of course, there are some who believe that they are above the law, like the chief secretary, because the system does also allow us to deal with rogue politicians who may, be inclined to engage in unlawful conduct. So again, let me say, it was basically a sea of rubbish, and these individuals, in their usual arrogance, doubling down on what they previously stated, attacking the TTPS, attacking the licensing authority, attacking the government, the central government, even threatening to report false claims to the United Nations. They clearly have no regard for the status and the brand called Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, Trinidad and Tobago is one of the leading countries in the Caribbean, and they have no regard for that. They are prepared to destroy that in order to save themselves from their self-inflicted troubles.
Thank you very much, political leader. And folks, we are out of time, not out of words, and we'll be back here, right here next week, Tuesday, same time, as we continue to expose and continue to present the facts, regardless of what the challenges may be. So stay locked on to Minority Report. Keep supporting. We thank you and have a wonderful evening. Good night.